go ahead and start.
Fantastic. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the annual general meeting for the fiscal year 2024 of the Autism Alliance of Canada. We are delighted to have you join us today. We will begin by acknowledging that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory and has been the home of many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples for generations. We acknowledge that in Canada, across Turtle Island, there are also over 630 nation communities and 11 treaties we honor and share stewardship of the land with, along with unceded territories in which we all live, play, and work today. My name is Sheena Nakani, and I am one of the co-chairs of the Autism Alliance of Canada. I am coming to you from Calgary on the traditional territories of the peoples of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation, the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations, and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. Just a little brief introduction about myself. I am a proud mom of two incredible young adults. My oldest is autistic and non-speaking, and he continues to teach me every day about the power of communication beyond words. I'm also honored to serve as the provincial director of the Autism Society of Alberta, where I work alongside passionate individuals and families to create a more inclusive, accessible province for autistic people. So I am going to call the annual general meeting for the fiscal year to order at, I guess, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This meeting today is conducted via Zoom and will be recorded. If you encounter any technical issues, please send a direct message to the host. Please note that the chat is enabled to message Autism Alliance staff. You can send direct messages to the host if you have any questions or technical issues. Also, please note that we are offering closed captioning as an option for you to follow our AGM. We will be utilizing Mentimeter for voting purposes. To participate in voting, please ensure you have Mentimeter open on a separate device or browser window. When prompted, enter the provided code to access the voting poll. If you require assistance on Mentimeter, please reach out to the host. The link to the Mentimeter can be found in the chat. And I think we're just going to launch our first membership status Mentimeter. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I am going to there we go. So again, the Mentimeter is launched, so please share your name or the name of your organization. And Francisca, you'll let me know when the Mentimeter is done.
You know, I had to step aside for a few minutes, so I didn't get connected to the Mentimeter.
Okay, I'll wait a few minutes here.
Okay.
And I couldn't get connected either. It went by too fast.
Maybe Francesca, if you can show the QR code again and that instruction screen. I don't know if you can backtrack.
Oh.
There we are. So folks can take a picture of the QR code or follow the instructions on the left side there.
Since it's the first question, we'll give everyone a few more minutes to join Mentimeter to get familiar with the tool. And as mentioned, if anyone has any technical issues, please send us a message in the chat, and our team is there to help you.
Excellent. You can see a few more people have been able to vote.
Thanks for your patience.
looks like we have quite a bit of almost over 40. So Francisca, is that good? Or would people like more time?
It is sufficient for quorum.
Fair enough. Okay. Our quorum is 10 voting members, so I can report that we have more than 10 voting members present. Therefore, quorum is met. It is my pleasure to call our AGM to order. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And everybody should have received that in advance. So all members who are in good standing in advance of the AGM are eligible to vote and have received an AGM package with the agenda, last year's minutes and audited financial statements by email as well. Please note that there will only be one vote per organization. So if I can get a motion to move to accept the agenda.
It's Debbie Irish, I move.
Can I have a seconder, please?
I am Maddie Dever. I second.
Thank you so much, Maddie. If anyone has any questions or comments, please raise your hand. So we're going to be launching the poll, motion number 1, to approve the agenda in the Mentimeter. So if you could please open up the Mentimeter and vote to approve the agenda. Thank you. Okay, I think we have almost everybody in there. Be it resolved that the 2024 annual general meeting agenda is approved. Thank you, everybody. Next item is reviewing and approving the minutes for the AGM. The minutes of the 2023 annual general meeting were circulated to our members for review prior to the meeting. Please add any questions, comments, or corrections in the chat now. And I can't see the chat, Francisca, so if you could let me know if there is anything, that would be lovely.
I do not see any comments regarding the minutes coming up.
Fantastic, thank you. So if I can have someone forward a motion to move to approve the minutes.
This
I
is
so move.
Rebecca Kinzinger, I move.
And thank you.
This
I'll
is Sue.
second.
Sorry.
Oh, so I think I have a motion to move from Rebecca Kitzinger and Ann Cresta to second. Thank you. If anyone has any, I think we're going to be doing the poll now. So, right. So the Mentimeter is going to be launched.
Sorry, point of order. Can I just get clarity, please?
Sure.
So under welcome on the minutes, welcome and call to order, it says for the fiscal year of 2022. Should that not be 2023?
2024.
It should be 2023 because last year's AGM was the 2023 fiscal year.
So can we amend that, please? I didn't catch that earlier. My apologies.
Thank you for that, Cindy.
And then also, if you go down to number 3, it says the materials, it says the minutes of the 2022 annual general meeting were circulated. It should, I believe it should say 2023.
Yes, and actually further, it says in the motion, be it resolved that the 2021 annual general meeting, say all 3 of them should say 2023.
Okay, thank you. So, I think we're going to try to approve the meeting minutes with the amendments of the new year in all 3 places. So if we could launch the Mentimeter.
Sorry, can you, the motion reads, be it resolved that the 2024 annual general meeting minutes are reviewed and approved. It should also say, and as amended.
I think that's what the as are reviewed and approved. The amendments would be included inside that reviewed.
Okay.
And sorry, the slide should say be it resolved that the 2023 annual general meeting minutes, not 2024.
Yeah, it should say the fiscal year 2023 annual general meeting. It gets confusing when we do this in April.
Thank you, everybody. So be it resolved that the 2023 annual general meeting minutes as amended are reviewed and approved. I am now going to hand it over to our Executive Director, Dr. Jonathan Lai, for a year in review. Thank you.
Thanks, Shino. With each year, I usually present a year in review just to reflect on some of the highlights, and this is definitely not everything, but it was hard to choose, but some of the happenings of the past year that we have been doing at the Alliance, and really powered by our staff, who are able to really carry out a lot of this work. Okay, so let's start and go to that next slide. So I'm going to go in semi-chronological order, but kind of group them by theme, so our head sort of stays straight with all that's going on. So our scientific director, Dr. Deepa Singhal, received one of the CIHR prestigious award for an embedded early career researcher award. We applied, and really it was focusing on the work we do within our mandate, transforming autism research and policy at the national level. Highly reviewed at CIHR, and we're very proud of that work, allowing her to continue her great work in research for the implementation of the strategy as we move things forward. Next slide. Around the same time, in the same vein of research, we did partner with a researcher at McGill University at that time, looking at a partnership on a research project looking at barriers to healthcare for minority language children on the autism spectrum and their families. This is an ongoing project that we're speaking with caregivers, service users, providers, who help and support families from 0 to 6-year-old in Quebec, but also across the country. And this program is this project is expanding and is occurring as we speak. Next slide. And I'm going to go all the way to April now. And some of the events at April, primarily our summit. Many of you on the call, I see the names, were there last year. We held our 10th summit, and there were over 290 registrants, making it was the most attended summit to date. And we'll see what happens next week, if we beat that number or not. And quality matters as much as quantity, but it was a great event as we were at the precipice of National Autism Strategy, which I will get to. Next slide. At the summit, we had our usual parliamentary reception. And at the reception, it was announced by the Joyce Family Foundation for a gift towards creating the National Center for Autism Collaboration, funds given to Autism Alliance to do so. So the NCAC, as we call it for short, was matched by funding from the Hamilton Health Sciences Foundation, the Snee Family Foundation, McMaster University, and McMaster's Children's Hospital. And really, this really empowers our evidence to policy pipeline in our research domain in this space. Next slide. Around the same time, the 4th issue of the Canadian Journal for Autism Equity was released. It was on housing just after the summit. And this year, there's one on diagnosis, which if you haven't seen it in the last newsletter, did come out. So really great work. And thank you for all those who contribute and all the editors who have been involved, autistic-led fully. And we're really proud of being able to support and move that work forward. Next slide. In the spring, we also had the 2nd phase of the Canadian Autistic adult needs assessment survey. If you remember last year, it was a long time ago, but we were funded, or 2 years ago, we were funded by the Public Health Agency of Canada to convene and have sort of the quantitative phase. We got many autistic adults across the country. The second phase was funded by the Sydney Family Foundation with many focus groups and working groups to kind of look at priorities and recommendations, looking in specific areas of mental health, employment, and social connectivity. So that was the report is online and it's been shared across the country many times and used for many purposes. So thank you, Mackenzie Salt, who led this work. Next slide. And during that summer, as the Canada Disability Benefit was coming forward, we, on behalf of our membership, signed a letter and worked with a whole slew of organizations on the Canadian Disability Benefit. And really the concerns of making sure at the provincial and territorial levels that there weren't clawbacks and advocating for that across the country. So that was some work we did with many of the other disability organizations as part of the National Disability Network. Next slide. And kind of in the summer months in June, we were officially recognized as a charity. We applied the year before, and the CRA did recognize us in that way. And this milestone in our organization and the evolution of our organization really is bringing new opportunities for us to enhance our mission and expand our reach, especially as we're moving from just advocating for a strategy to actually guiding and helping implement parts of the strategy that we can in the community. And at around the same time as the federal budget 2025, obviously we know today it's a little different of a story right now, but we did submit our federal budget recommendations. I know folks, our membership did take that up and had different conversations with these policy asks and these budget asks. Really, it was anticipating that a autism strategy was coming up. We wanted to make sure our ask and our solutions really gave a whole of government approach that complemented what we expected to be in the autism strategy. Next slide. At the same time in 2024, last year, we celebrated 10 years of our program, Ready, Willing, Able, that we partner with Inclusion Canada on, and really moving, having able to have 5,000 job placements over these years and expanding from the 20 communities that Ready, Willing, Able serves to 30 in this current phase. Slide. Later that year, we're sort of in the summer, fall, I'm thinking in my head, the calendar, we did receive funding, federal funding, to increase our organization capacity, to empower Francophone autism organizations and people to really strengthen our members in this way and bring in new members to build our collective capacity, specifically in Francophone communities across the country. So we thank you for some of the key people who have stepped up, and those of you who will be here next week at Summit, we'll have some specific activities for these Francophone communities to engage in and network over. Moving into the fall, something that Autism Alliance has been asking for and been working towards over decades, really the release of Canada's first autism strategy. So it was a powerful moment that we were able to get there. I can't even I don't know the words to sort of explain all the thoughts, the efforts, the emotion, and the thinking that went behind, and all those who have gone before us in this advocacy effort. So a key signal of that the current government to take action and make a public commitment in the recognition of autistic people and their families. So the plan was developed. We did have a communications around it, seeing what we can do here, what we can build on, what we can continue to push forward as we move into this implementation stage. But this was a moment at the end of September that we all were waiting for many, many years. Next slide. And following that, we had a few pieces on our website looking at the strategy, doing some analysis. And we also did our first podcast series in a little while. Honest conversations about Canada's first autism strategy. So many of our board members were involved in this and diving into the key five priority areas of the strategy, having some discussion hosted by Ali Garber, a parent in Halifax, and just looking at the real life concrete pieces of the strategy, what it really means for us, what does it look like. So it's going to be really, and this conversation is going to continue next week when we're in Ottawa. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do so, and really warm your brain up to what we're doing next week in Ottawa. Next slide. And in the fall, we also were able to welcome Christiane and Michelle as two of our health system impact fellows, kind of continuing our work in that sort of health policy and health delivery services research. And joining our teams of fellows, we've been very successful in gaining these fellows. These fellows are not typical researchers, but being able to be embedded within community organizations to bring a research lens to that and to empower and align community research efforts with organizational efforts across the country in the health sphere. Next slide. And one of the last ones, so we continue this project called the National Child Autism Waitlist Initiative. We call it NAWI for short, so it took me a second to say it out loud. But really understanding when we bring together clinical site leads, parents of autistic children, to understand when we use words around the diagnostic process, what do these words mean? Clinics define them differently, governments define them differently, reports define them differently. So making sure we have a shared understanding and definition, and will help us really accelerate how we can make change in this whole process, because that is a bottleneck of the supports and services for kids across the country. I also wanted to highlight another project that we have, this one in the criminal justice system, understanding the experience of autistic adults in Canada with the justice system. So really deep and meaningful quotes and interviews that have occurred, some of them bringing tears to my own eyes. And Dr. Mackenzie Salt and Dr. Stephanie Eric, they had an opportunity to present this actually at a judges conference, a space we're typically not in, to talk to judges about autism and autistic people's interaction with the justice system. We know that this has been in the news in different parts of across the country in the last couple of years. So we've done some work on this actually with the commissioner of the RCMP as well. So this is sort of an initiative that we have with some of our members. Next slide. So one of the parts of S203, the bill that was led by Senator Housakos and Senator Beam, was assigned a role for a research network, and us continue to play a proactive role in guiding government, and sometimes I would say, quote unquote, leading the way. We wanted to anticipate what, and kind of making sure the work can move forward. We had a research report looking at what an autism research network would look like in the last part of the year. That's a report that we put together based on talking to researchers, communities, and others. And that was led by Alexia and Dr. Jeepa Singhal as well. And also in the fall, many of you were part of this. We did conduct a membership asset map, knowing that we're moving towards implementation of the strategy, making sure our members' voices were not lost in all that was happening. We reached out to member organizations. Some were available, some were not because of the short notice, but we want to quickly have a snapshot of what's, where our members are, what we're feeling about the strategy, what are the gaps, where are places to collaborate. So there has been, we're going to be producing a final report of this material to those members who are taking part, and we're going to continue in this effort to build up a better understanding of who we all are across this country, and do it in a collective way, and to further and strengthen our mission and our advocacy efforts. Next slide. And then I think this is closing off the year. We did submit an application to an RFP process by the Public Health Agencies of Canada. The previous year, we did ask them to make sure they had a fair and transparent process. That was a competitive process if they were going to take action in how they're going to implement the strategy with community involvement. So the National Autism Network, which we'll hear about a little bit later, we submitted an application in partnership with the Sini Family Foundation to build the National Autism Network as an organization really to center lived experience, so autistic people, their families, caregivers, in shaping policies. So the first signal, official signal from government that government's coming to the community and not us to government. So this is been a bit of a change in the narrative how government is thinking of interacting. We're very excited for this, and we'll hear a bit more about it in the next little bit. Next slide. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it back to Shino.
Thank you, Jonathan, and to the entire team at Autism Alliance of Canada for all your efforts and the amazing work that's been done to date. I'm going to now pass it off to Cindy Gerlach to talk about the election of directors.
Thanks, Shino. Hi, everyone. My name is Cindy Gerlach, and I come to you from the unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, in particular the Squamish and the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, also known as North Vancouver, in sunny, beautiful British Columbia. I am a director on the board and also a co-chair of the governance committee. When it comes to nominations to the Alliance Board of Directors, the governance committee follows the procedures as set out in the Alliance bylaws. Our bylaws allow us to have up to 15 directors. We currently have 3 board members who have resigned from the board. This year, there are 5 returning directors whose current terms have ended and who have been nominated to stand for re-election. They are, and my apologies in advance if I mispronounce your names, Shino Nakane, Maddie Deaver, Corey Walker, David Nicholas, and Debbie Irish. The governance committee is recommending that this slate of 5 returning directors be elected to an additional 2-year term. Finally, the governance committee is bringing forward a slate of 1 new candidate to be elected to a 2-year term to serve on the Alliance Board of Directors. The candidate is Emmy Linz. Emmy's bio for the recommended candidate was shared within the meeting package. Be it resolved that the following persons are hereby appointed directors of the corporation. Shino Nakane, organization member, 2-year term. Maddie Deaver, community member, 2-year term. Corey Walker, community member, 2-year term. David Nicholas, community member, 2-year term. Debbie Irish, organization member, 2-year term. Emmy Linz, community member, 2-year term. I'd like to ask for a motion to move this resolution.
It's Kim, I'll move.
Thank you, Kim. Kim Ward has moved, and can I have someone second the motion?
Mark Whalen, I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. If there are any questions or comments, please raise your hand. And I believe there was a comment in the, in how many directors will we have now?
That would be 13.
Thanks, Maddie. I can't do my, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. Seeing no more questions, we move to vote. Be it resolved that the following persons are hereby appointed directors of the corporation: Shino Nakane, Maddie Deaver, Corey Walker, David Nicholas, Debbie Irish, and Emmy Linz. And the motion has passed. So thank you, and I turn it back over to Shino.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I am now going to turn it over to Debbie Irish, our treasurer, for the annual approval of financial statements. Debbie?
Thank you, Shino. As stated, my name is Debbie Irish. I am on the board of directors as both a director and the treasurer. I've been affiliated with the Alliance since, I want to say, 2013. And in my day job, I am the Chief Strategy Officer at the Canadian Council on Rehabilitation and Work, an organization that supports people with any disability with connecting to the work force. So just to talk a little bit about the financial statements, and I think that somebody's going to bring them up on the screen. The audited financial statements present fairly in all material respects that affect the financial position of Autism Alliance of Canada as of December 31st, 2024, as a result of its operations and cash flows of the year in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for nonprofit organizations. It is a clean audit. In reviewing our financial position, the Alliance has assets valued at $1,182,147. We currently have a significant amount of cash that is a result of funder prepayments and summit revenues that have been deferred and will be recognized in this fiscal year. The Alliance has liabilities of $1,005,031, resulting in a net asset position of $117,116. In terms of the statement of operations, the organization had revenues of $1,587,737 and expenditures of $1,593,625, resulting in a small year-end deficit of $5,891. This deficit is related to some year-end housekeeping to clean up some bad debt that had been recorded in previous years. Additionally, in the audit package, you can find more detailed information on the last page that breaks down the various projects that we have and how they were the expenses aligned for those individual projects. So be it resolved that the members accept the 2024 financial statements. I'd like to ask for a motion to move this resolution.
This is Maddie Dever. I'll move.
Thank you. Can I have someone to second the motion?
Anne Cresta, I'll second.
Thank you, Anne. If there are any questions, please raise your hand. And somebody's going to have to flag for me if there's any hands because my screen's not showing a consolidated view.
There are no hands.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So there are no hands.
Okay, thank you. Seeing there are no questions, we move to a vote. Okay. All right. So the motion has passed. I'm going to move on to the appointment of auditors. Be it further resolved that Bellevue Vinot Inc. is hereby appointed the independent auditor of the corporation to hold office until the close of the next annual members meeting or until a successor is appointed at such remuneration as may be fixed by the directors, and the directors are hereby authorized to fix such remuneration. I would like to ask for a motion to move this resolution.
It's Kim Ward. I move.
Thank you, Kim. And can I have somebody to second this motion?
It's Corey Walker. I second.
Thank you. If there are any questions or comments, please add them to the chat or raise your hand. Seeing no questions, we can move to a vote. And this motion has passed.
Thank you very much, Debbie. I am now moving to the next item, which is bylaw updates, and I would like to introduce Maddie Dever to talk about that.
Thank you, Shino. My name is Maddie Dever. I'm an autistic adult, and I'm a parent of 4 autistics who are 16 to 26 now. I live in rural Eastern Ontario in the traditional territory of the Ashinabek, Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties, and I've been a co-vice chair for the past few terms, and I'm currently the co-chair of the Governance Committee with Cindy. And one of the things this committee is responsible for is reviewing the corporate bylaws and making recommendations for changes to be presented to the board and to the membership as we're doing here today. This is the stuff that I was born to do. I love this stuff. So today for your review and approval are a set of changes that deal with a few things, including voting eligibility delay. So members must be in good standing for 30 days from confirmation and dues paid before getting voting rights. Expanding voting access, so it's now explicitly allowed both in person and remotely. Clarification on tied votes. Tied votes in the future, tied votes will not pass. The chair does not get a second or casting vote. Definition of good standing added to our definitions. And we've reorganized some of the things so there's a little bit better flow of the sections inside the bylaws. So I'm hoping that everybody's had a chance and opportunity to look at the bylaws and compare them with the bylaws from last year that we approved. And at this point, the resolution, be it resolved that the recommended changes to Articles 8, 12, and 16, and the reorganization of the order of the articles from the corporation bylaws of the Autism Alliance of Canada be approved in its entirety. And I would like to ask for a motion to move this resolution.
Mark Whalen, I so move.
Thank you, Margaret. And can I have someone second this motion?
It's Rebecca Kinsinger, I second.
Thank you. If there are any questions or comments, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. All right, seeing no more questions, let's move to Mentimeter for a vote. And please note that this bylaw change is a special resolution that needs 2/3 support as opposed to 50% support. All right, the motion passes, and I pass it back to Sheena.
Thank you so much, Maddie. I'm now going to introduce my co-chair, Rebecca Kitzinger, and she's going to give us our co-chair report. Rebecca, over to you.
Sorry, I was muted. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this year's annual general meeting. I'm Rebecca Kinsinger, and I've been honored to serve as co-chair of the board of directors for Autism Alliance of Canada with my wonderful colleague, Shino Nakane. I'm an autistic advocate and also the parent of 2 incredible autistic, not so kids anymore kids. I live in Kelowna, BC of the Syilx Okanagan peoples, and much of my time is spent writing, speaking, and connecting with others, always with the goal of shifting narratives, creating space, driving meaningful change. This work is both personal and political for me, and I know many of you feel the same. Thank you for being here today and for everything you do as part of this alliance. Your continued support and participation are what keep this momentum going. We truly are better together, and only together can we take on the complex systems and the barriers that autistic people and their families experience across their lives. This year has brought incredible progress and renewed collaboration. After decades of advocacy from autistic people, families, researchers, and community organizations from coast to coast to coast, the federal government officially announced Canada's autism strategy. It's a significant milestone, one that recognizes the gaps in support across the country and offers a path toward providing the right support at the right time across the lifespan. But of course, the announcement is just the beginning. Now comes the real work, making sure this strategy doesn't sit on a shelf, but is implemented in ways that reflect community needs and create real lasting change. One step forward we're especially proud of is the confirmation that the National Autism Network will be moving ahead. And following a competitive process, Autism Alliance of Canada, alongside our partner, the Sinead Family Foundation, will lead and coordinate this new network. The network will center autistic, Indigenous, and family perspectives while bringing together community organizations, professionals, and experts from across the country. It's a chance to build something meaningful, informed by experience, grounded in evidence, and driven by collaboration. We're also heading into a federal election, and it's more important than ever to get out the vote. When these candidates come to your door in the next 4 days, ask them where they stand. What's their plan to support autistic people in Canada? How will they make sure the strategy leads to action and not just more talk? In just a few days, many of us will come together at the 11th Annual Canadian Autism Leadership Summit. Whether you're joining us in person or online, you're part of a dynamic, timely conversation, including panels that focus on each of the priority areas identified in Canada's autism strategy. Looking ahead, our commitment remains clear. The path forward must be shaped by both community experience and strong, thoughtful evidence. That's how we make policy that is inclusive, responsive, and built to last. Thank you for being here and for being part of this movement. Together we are stronger, and together we can build a future where autistic people and their families are not just supported, but celebrated for their leadership and experience. The work continues, and so does our collective power to shape what comes next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Before we conclude, I just wanted to take a moment to thank our outgoing directors, Karen Bopp, Tanya McLeod, and Gail Francis. Karen, I'd like to take a special moment to recognize your contribution as the co-chair, playing an extraordinary role in helping to lead our organization for the past couple of years. We want to express our deepest gratitude to all three of you for your time, energy, and dedication in guiding our mission and strengthening our impact. Your wisdom and passion have better positioned the Autism Alliance of Canada to serve our community and grow our vision. On behalf of the entire organization, thank you for your commitment and contributions. You've left a lasting legacy, and we are truly, truly grateful. To all three of you, we wish you all the best in the future, and we hope that our paths continue to cross in meaningful and productive ways. And at this time, at exactly 1:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I would like to conclude the annual general meeting of the Autism Alliance of Canada. I would like to thank all the members of the Autism Alliance of Canada for your attendance and support of our organization. And the meeting has concluded, but I wanted to now pass over to Deepa Singhal, our Scientific Director, to introduce our guest speaker. Thank you. Deepa?
Thanks, Gino. Thanks, everyone. It's my pleasure to reintroduce Dr. Karen Bopp as the interim CEO of Canada's new National Autism Network. Karen's going to tell you all a little bit about how the Alliance is working with the Sinead Family Foundation to develop this new network, a little bit more about her role and the vision that we've all created. So Karen Bopp is an incredible individual, as everyone knows. She's dedicated 30 years to supporting and working in partnership with autistic and neurodivergent people and their families. She holds a master's in speech language pathology and a PhD in special education for UBC. And her career has spanned everything from frontline clinical work to policy leadership and advocacy. Recently, at the BC Ministry of Children and Family Development, she led autism policy development, cross-ministerial initiatives, services, systemic improvements, and spearheaded professional development programs at UBC Circa for primary care providers, dental professionals, employers, and early childcare workers to enhance accessibility and inclusion for neurodivergent people. She most recently served as executive advisor for BC's representative for children and youth, where she engaged with self-advocates, families, and service providers to inform policy and system change. So this incredible experience that she brings with this sets her up so nicely. She's so uniquely positioned to help lead this very important initiative during this really important time. So Karen, take it away. We're really lucky to have you.
Thank you. That was very kind. I really appreciate those words, and but I'll dive right into it because I'm so excited about the National Autism Network. And so let me pull up my slides, Francisca. Because the slides are quite packed in each one, we have a French and an English version, and Francisca can put the French version in the link to that in the chat in a second if you need to follow along that way as well. So I am going to now share my screen and hope that that all works out the way it's supposed to. There, everybody can see? Great. Okay, let me just shrink myself. I don't need to see myself. So yeah, thanks. I'm very excited. And I think as John mentioned just now, this is a shift. This is quite a significant shift. It's it has its nuances, but it is a shift, and it's a shift in the right direction. All of the work, this is all built on all of the work that the Alliance has done and that our members have done, as Rebecca said, from coast to coast to coast across this beautiful country for, the past, 15, 20 years on really pushing for a national autism strategy and to having some consistency and coordination across this country to improve services and to improve the lives for autistic people and their families. And we have been knocking on their door. We've been knocking on government's door. We've been knocking on provincial government's door, territorial government's door, and federal government's door for many, many, many years. And now here we are at the point where we've knocked on their door and they've created a national autism strategy. As Rebecca said, it's a start. It's not perfection. It's an evergreen document. But they've also created the National Autism Network, and they are funding us now and asking the community, asking people with lived and living experience across the country. They're asking us what they should do, how they should implement the National Autism Strategy. So we're not coming to them sort of hat in hand. They are now coming to us wanting to learn from us. And that's such a significant and exciting shift. So I'm going to first pass it over because we're going to talk about the National Autism Network today. Again, we're just starting, we're just getting going. We have a lot of work that we have done, and there's a lot of work still to do. As was stated here before, this is being powered by the Autism Alliance of Canada and the Seneve Family Foundation, who are really sort of holding up and giving the roots so that we can create a standalone entity, which will be the National Autism Network itself as a not-for-profit. And so there's a lot of that work that's being done right now, and we're also starting some of the engagement work. So I'm going to actually pass it over to Maddie Dever, who is the board chair for the interim board as we move towards getting a permanent board in October. And Maddie, they are going to just describe some of the, and tell me when you want to advance the slides. Maddie, they're just going to describe some of the organizational structure, and then I'll go into giving you a better idea about engagement and our thoughts of moving forward on how we can really influence the implementation of a national autism strategy, which will make a difference to people on the ground across this country. So Maddie, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. All right. So again, hello and welcome. Again, I'm Maddie Dever. I'm an autistic advocate. I'm also a parent to 4 other amazing autistics, 16 to 26 years old. And I am now wearing a different hat for this part of the meeting because I've also been selected to be part of the initial board of directors and its interim chair. So what is the National Autism Network? Well, through a request for proposal process, again, Seneve Family Foundation and the Autism Alliance of Canada were chosen to create this new standalone organization, the National Autism Network, which is incorporated under Canada. You can switch to the next slide, which is incorporated under Canada's Not-for-Profit Corporation Act. So this is a new organization. It's fully remote, fully virtual, and is being, again, initially supported by staff from both Seneve and the Alliance. And the government is providing funding of $10 million over the next 5 years, which will fund 9 full-time equivalent positions in this new organization. Now, I won't go too much into the details of who is on the team, but it does start at the top with our interim chief executive officer, Karen Bob, who I am excited to work with. The key thing is that though we are starting with this team and this staffing, we will adjust and pivot as we go to ensure that we are meeting the needs of this organization and the people that we are serving. Next slide, please. Currently, we are in our initial setup phase, but we will be moving swiftly into the next phase, which includes having membership in this new organization, and that membership having the ability to choose the board of directors to oversee this organization. Now, in the spirit of nothing about us without us, the government has mandated prioritizing lived and living experience, so there will be 2 voting classes of members. The first one, autistic individuals, first person lived experience, who will have their vote weighted as 3 votes. And then the second class is family members. So the second person, the living experience, who will have their vote weighted as 1 vote. And there will be other opportunities for those who are not part of these 2 classes to participate in the network in various different ways. Next slide. We'll be working towards having our first annual general meeting in October, and part of that meeting will be electing a new board of directors for that following year. The 2 classes of members will be voting for a slate of directors that a nomination committee will recommend to the members at that meeting. There will be between 12 and 15 directors being nominated, and as per the government's requirements, they will be comprised of the following. Autistic individuals will be a minimum of 51% on the board, which means 7 or 8 directors. Family members will be a minimum of 30%, which means 4 or 5 directors. And we will also have a minimum of 10% or 2 directors who are francophone, which at least 30% French proficiency and bilingual. These are the broad membership categories, but we also have requirements through a lens of intersectionality, diversity, and inclusion. So a minimum of 10% or 2 Indigenous members, a minimum of 20% or 3 of Black and people of color members, a minimum of 15% of 2 LGBTQIA members, a minimum of 50%, 6 to 8, who are women. Now, another set of requirements that the board must fill is regional representation. So we will need a minimum of 1 director per region: Pacific, Prairie, Central, Atlantic, and Northern. And it's important to note here that board members may represent more than 1 intersection. For example, I'm autistic, a parent. I'm a trans non-binary queer resident of Ontario in Central Canada. Now, as you can see, it will be important for our nomination committee to review all of these aspects as they look to recommend candidates to the members at the AGM in October. So if you are interested in serving on the nomination committee, please see me or Karen Bob. And for the sake of time, if you have any questions about the governance of the network, please see me or another board member. And I'll be at CALS, both at the NAN Assembly and at CALS for the duration of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I'll pass it back to you, Karen.
Great. Thank you so much, Maddie. Now, I just want one point of clarification. You said that we're funded for 10 million. We wish, but it's 6.5 million over 4 full years and sort of a half of fiscal. So we're working towards that. So just wanted to clarify that. Also wanted to sort of mention, I neglected to mention that actually I'm joining you today from the beautiful territories of the Tsawwassen First Nation in the Lower Mainland of British Columbia and the Coast Salish peoples. And I think Cindy kind of pushed it in there that we've got sun today. So I hope that everybody is getting sun across this country or some good time out on the land across this country. But as I said, so let's talk about the National Autism Network. And as I said before, it's a crucial shift. They're now knocking on our door. But, you know, we want to acknowledge that our current state and our aspired state are sort of 2 different things. And we are going to move together. We are making a big commitment at the network to move forward together to co-create something for this country that can have influence to not only federal governments, but provincial and territorial governments and philanthropic organizations. We have this opportunity now to sort of bring our voices together. Our voices sometimes don't always or our perspectives don't always fully align, but we are more aligned than we are not. And I think that we can sort of move forward in this sort of messy state together, but as we move forward, we will become cleaner and cleaner, and we will grow. And so that's sort of this analogy that I have here on the side, which is some seedlings in a forest that are sort of just getting started. We don't have a huge amount of funds, as I just mentioned. It's not 10 million, it's 6.5, and that really is to get the organization sort of off the ground, and to start doing the majority of that funding is to really do some significant engagement and pointed engagement to make sure that whatever we recommend to governments over time really is going to have the effect of improving the lives of autistic Canadians or autistic people in Canada and their families. So there's lots to do. And we know that not all perspectives have been here at the table so far. Some have been centered at the table, and some are just coming to the table. We know that we need more Indigenous perspective. We know that we need more perspective of people new to the country. We know that we need more perspectives of what's happening in rural, remote communities and in the North. And we definitely know that we need more perspectives and more inclusion of families who are have children or adult people who may have co-occurring conditions or maybe non-speaking or non-verbal, and have maybe an intellectual disability or other co-occurring conditions, and making sure all those perspectives are brought to the table. So really the strategy, as I said, is ever living. When government first sort of presented their strategy, I think a lot of us had a lot to say about it, and to kind of, say that we really excited that you've put it on the table, and we're really excited that it's now in legislation, and we do have to sort of move forward with it. But they agree too. We just met with the Public Health Agency of Canada yesterday, and they also agree that this is ever living, and we're going to work together to make it better and better every year. So this network really has an important role to play. We do have skeptics, and we welcome skeptics. I welcome to talk to people and to find out how we can work better together, as Rebecca said. But working together, and now that we have this vehicle, the network that we've never had before, that we can now bring together a shared vision to achieve our goals, and a shared vision that we know we have government's ear to listen to. We are very excited about that. And we want to start off right. And we want to start off not in silos, but together. And so that's sort of how we're going to be moving forward in the next couple of months to make sure. So we're starting with sort of some shallow roots. We have this image of a tree that we're growing. And I think Cindy Gerlach in one of our startup committee members was saying that, in 100 years, we want to have a strong forest. We want to have something that we can look back on that is sort of built on really strong roots and foundations and infrastructure. But right now we have sort of limited funding, and that funding, as we know, is focused on the infrastructure and the coordination. But I think if we get that right, we'll be able to build on to the next steps, and our trees and our forests will be able to grow. We don't have and haven't been promised any resources for implementation or scaling of solutions as of yet. So our branches and our network are sparse, but we are reliant on, and we are working together as a coalition of the willing. And just by the numbers of people that are showing up here today, and the numbers of people that will show up at the Canadian Autism Leadership Summit, and the numbers of people that have gone onto our landing page. The website it's being developed as we speak as well, but has gone onto our landing page and are excited and are asking for more. Is quite extensive already. And so we're very excited to see that there are people that are willing to work together. You know, in the past, there's been some fragmented efforts that haven't, as I said before, reached all the regions. And we've often had a dependence on, as I said, volunteer time or philanthropic time, or really going from grant to grant to grant just to create the basis of really the 5 strategic priorities that we have pushed government to focus on. So we have some fragile growth, but we have strong engagement abilities and we have a lot of potential. You know, our impact is limited by our capacity, but our capacity can be huge as we move forward. So we really want to create some deep roots. We want to have to push for sustained and adequate funding to implement the Canada's autism strategy. We want to have sustained and adequate funding to implement system transformation. And we really want to have long-term collaboration to build this collaboration that's grounded in equity and lived and living experience. And that sort of brings us to our trunk. If we can have those roots, then we can develop this sort of solid trunk of coordinated infrastructure with national alignment and shared goals. And we have shared goals already, but we really need to kind of push that to the next level with some very specific action items that we can encourage government or recommend to government for them to implement. Not only federal government, as I said, but provinces and territories, and even pushing other systems that are able to implement these types of programs. And so our governance, and as we move forward, and all of this engagement is shaped by Indigenous knowledge, autistic leadership, and really centered on inclusive policy. Then we want to spread our branches. We want to make sure our branches are wide and can spread far and vast. And that's really about us thinking about scaling and spreading evidence-informed, community-developed solutions across regions. You know, the best ideas and the best solutions come from community, come from people who are living on the ground in their community, be it rural, be it urban, and know where some of these solutions. And we want to push forward those solutions to government that are not just high level policy that won't be felt, but those that are can be spread and scaled at the community level. And then we, want to ensure that we do that by, connecting our families, connecting autistic people across the country, connecting researchers, connecting service providers, and connecting policymakers. So we're really hoping to create a thriving canopy, somewhere where there's continuous learning and innovation and knowledge mobilization. And we want to have all of this sort of impact people's lives. So where are we at? That's sort of the question that we have right now. Where are we at? We only really just the Sine Family Foundation and Autism Alliance of Canada really only received the proposal. So we're the successful proponents of the proposal and received the grant and the funding just at the beginning of March. So it's, it's just middle of April. So what have we done and where are we going? So I'm gonna show you this infographic, and I know it's super far away for you, so I'm gonna dive into each part of this infographic right now. But this is sort of our engagement circles here on the left and how we see the network moving forward. So I'm going to start with the purpose, and the purpose really is to advise the Autism Secretariat to implement Canada's autism strategy. We as a network do not have the power or the mandate to do the actual implementation themselves. That always has been and always will be more centered on governments doing the funding and the implementation of Canada's autism strategy. But we like I said, they're knocking on our door now. We are going to be providing them with solid action plans to create, to influence that implementation of the strategy. So we want to ensure that there's ongoing community feedback and engagement, and make sure that's central to the recommended actions. And finally, we want to support collaboration between community. What I'll show you just in a minute is the standing advisory groups and strategic priority committees, and really have that support inform the development of practical and actionable implementation plans and recommendations for each of the 5 priority areas, as I said, that can have a tangible on-the-ground impact. So let's dive into I like to always start with, what are we producing? What is the National Network going to be giving in terms of these recommendation or these outputs or action plans? And so really that's the center of this engagement circle. I'm going to be talking to you about the community engagement, the 5 strategic priority committees, and the 3 standing advisory groups. And we kind of see these as our circle of engagement that will continually work together for to improve the Canada's autism strategy, but also to continually provide outputs and action plans in each of the strategic priority areas, as I said earlier, that really influence federal, provincial, territorial governments, and philanthropic organizations. I was just recently already doing some initial engagement in the north, in the Yukon, here in Western Canada, in that territory. And as I met with service providers there and government folks, they said, I'm very excited to be able to take your action plans and give them to my government too, because when my government asks me, or when my organization asks me, where should we be targeting? What should we be doing to improve the lives of autistic people in Canada and their families? What should we be doing? And they're excited to see that there's this national group now that will bring all of that together in a way that's really systematic, looking at each of the 5 strategic priorities and providing some community-based solutions. So that's really the sort of the output of what we're all working towards. So how do we get there? Well, it's community engagement is one of the 3 sort of core features or 3 foundations to get to our recommendations. And again, our recommendation, we're not talking about one report here. We're not talking about one sort of report over time. We're talking about a series of recommendations as we evolve and develop over time. We're not going to hold things back just because, it's not report release time. We're going to make sure that things are open and transparent, and people have access to this information as soon as it's available. So part of that is community engagement. And we want to really ensure that we will have in-person engagements, virtual engagements, we can have surveys, but this is really to engage with the autism community. And the strive there is to ensure that all perspectives across the country are included, and that information is gathered to inform the priority settings and to make the recommended actions that are felt on the ground. So really how that works, if you take a look at how we're envisioning, and we're going to be having an assembly with some of the initial co-chairs on the morning of the 28th to sort of co-design what this process of engagement and this engagement circle will look like. We have a lot of work that has been, a lot of excellent work that has been done by the Autism Alliance of Canada in terms of the 5 strategic priorities, what actions exist already, what could we move to scale up. We have a lot of that work, and so we need to take some of those ideas to community and ask pointed questions. We're not going to community and saying, so what do you need, right? We've done that. We've been there. Everybody knows what's some of the things that are needed. We are now going to sort of work together between the 5 strategic priority committees, the 3 standing advisory groups, and bring these ideas to community so that we can ensure that they will make that difference on the ground. The next is the strategic priority committees. And so these are really 5 strategic priorities that I'll remind you that are in Canada's autism strategy. Strategic priority 1 is screening, diagnosis, and services. 2 is economic inclusion. 3 is data collection, public health surveillance, and research. 4 is public awareness, understanding, and acceptance. And 5 is tools and resources. And so we will be creating strategic priority committees who will identify sort of the key mechanisms for what needs to be implemented and to make recommendations that support the development of government's implementation of each of the priority. Each of these groups will include 7 to 12 systems and policy experts and individuals with, sorry, I should have gone on to the next screen. Each of them will include the 7 to 12 policy experts that are in that field. And they will also include people with lived and living experience who are connected to that strategic priority. And so really we have to, so skipping that. The purpose of this committee is really to draw on the expertise of these system and policy experts. It's to provide a forum and a collaborative environment to share knowledge, best practices, and innovative solutions. And it really is a place where we can identify sustainable and effective actions to make policy recommendations, to foster inter and cross sector collaborations that lead to meaningful and positive outcomes. So, we think of it where, the strategic priority committees may have some ideas, but they're like, I wish I knew more about what the communities thought about this. Network, I need you to go ask it. I need you to go out and find out these answers so that we can ensure that part of what we're recommending in our strategic priority really is impactful. So that brings us to the third part of the engagement circle, which is the standing advisory groups. There will be 3 standing advisory groups, first person or autistic advisory, family advisory, and Indigenous advisory. Each will have 7 to 12 participants with a diverse range of lived and living experience. And really their purpose is to assess network activities and the direction, truly integrate that lived and living experience and the insights and perspectives into each priority and in all the decision-making processes. And so this really is going to be, as we co-design how this works, is going to be supported by what we're calling is the National Autism Network Engagement Manager. So all of these committees won't have to be doing their own doodle polls and things like that. They can come to work and get things done. But the standing advisory committees are those 3 that I had just mentioned. And their purpose is really to bring insights and perspectives of individuals who have direct personal experience with issues that the network strategic planning and decision-making process. They are really going to ensure that everything is grounded in empathetic, effective, and real-world understanding. They really are there to strengthen the network's connections with the autistic community and underscore the commitment to inclusion and community-centered work. And they will be the ones also who will stay informed about the community issues and present a wide range of perspectives that reflect a real larger diversity of community perspectives. So they will include the 7 to 12 folks, individuals or people, but they will also work with the network in our sort of circle of engagement to say, we really wish we had more insight onto how this will impact individuals who are non-speaking or families who are caring for children with significant needs or adults who have significant needs. And so that may be one of the things, or they may say, we don't have enough information on the Indigenous perspective for the advisory committee to even provide advice on what we're recommending. So they may ask us to go back and make sure that we get that information for them so that they can make an informed decision and informed advice. As I said, all of these committees will have their infrastructure and support. So there will be community engagement will be supported by the National Autism Regional Engagement Associates. So our idea is to have regional associates that will be paid. And sorry, I did neglect to say anybody with lived and living experience, any on our committees, will be paid and compensated for their time and their travel if need be, if that involves travel. So this is real work, real pay. This isn't people doing this off the sides of their desks or sort of as something extra. This is really something that that is a job for many folks. And so part of that job is us to have regional engagement associates. The government has given us 5 regions in the country. And so we intend to have regional engagement associates with lived and living experience in each of those areas, which will help us create those more community-based connections with the people that are actually doing the work across the country. They'll also be supported by the Autism Alliance of Canada, National Centre for Autism Collaboration, and the National Autism Network Engagement Manager. We're looking at having an engagement manager who has lived and living experience, but also is a researcher who will help bridge that understanding between the strategic priority committees over to the standing advisory committees and into community engagement. So we can have that sort of one line to ensure that we are connecting the dots as best as we can. And then the standing advisory committees will be supported by a network engagement manager. And all the committees will, when they're showing up to do their work, they're not having to, you're not having to sort of create a doodle poll and figure out how to schedule appointments and do all the Zoom calls. And that's all done for the committees, and they're showing up and bringing their great minds to the table so that we can move forward as quickly as we can with making some action plans for each of the strategic priorities. So as I said, each committee and group will have a minimum of 10 to a maximum of 15 members from across the country. They will serve 1-year terms with a maximum of 3 years. And the group and committee members with first or secondhand experience are, as I said just now, are all eligible for hourly compensation. We haven't decided. We're going to start meeting with folks already about how to. We don't know yet what the recruitment process will be. We have some ideas. But we're committed to the co-design process. So we're bringing together some of key folks in each of these areas. As I said, at an assembly on the 28th, to really do some of that logistic grunt work to figure out how can we do this in a fair and open and transparent process to ensure that we have a great recruitment process for both committees and groups. And so that's all still to be decided. But, really, I'll kind of end there and then I'll open up to questions because I'm sure I've missed a bunch and I'm sure that you have a lot of questions. And so it's, I don't want to sit here and just, talk to people. I want to hear from folks. I want us to learn and go through this messy process together so that we really plant our roots strong and that we put that investment to move forward and to plan for action. So, we really want to have this, not everything it's not all about just getting money from government. It's also about bringing the community together and improving on, from federal government and improving on provincial and territorial government decisions as well. And we really want to ensure that we have collaboration across the country. And I think we, have the courage to lead. We have the courage to lead and move forward together. We want to share across our borders, elevate good programs and policies and practices so that we can do better things in each corner of this great country of ours. So I'll end there. and I will open it up to questions. Do you see my meeting chat on your thing? I hope not. I'll just shrink that. That QR code brings you to the landing page website. It's not our official website yet. We're working, I have a meeting right after this with our website folks, with AutoCon, which is an autistic-led organization who are developing our website. And the Cine Family Foundation is working very hard to create the entity and to ensure that it's stood up on some really good governance structures. And so we're all working together, and I really hope that that you'll consider being a part of this journey with us, so that we can now be the time where we're giving government, we're answering their questions rather than us pushing them to answer ours. So thank you so much. And my slideshow, and stop sharing. So I'll open it up to questions. I know I didn't do that good of a job that there's no questions. It's really sort of the first time doing it. Mark, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah. I finally stopped crying during your presentation.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, amazing accomplishment for all of you who were part of it. And I just can't find the words. 18 years, worth every second of it. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's very exciting. I mean, like I said, they're knocking on our door, and that's a significant shift. And we have to take that opportunity and give them the actions that will actually impact people across this country. Anne.
I just loved that analogy of a sapling growing and the stages of change and growth and evolution. So I really appreciated that. I'm a visual thinker. And so having it put in that way, it really, and if we can just keep reminding ourselves, okay, we're at this stage, this is what we need to build stronger. And your thoughtfulness and that, I don't know, like within a couple of months to pull this together to the point where you're at, like kudos. It's just amazing. You're the right person for the job, obviously.
There's a big team behind this, and the Alliance and all the work, and the National Center for Autism Collaboration and the Cine Family Foundation and all of you here. This is sort of, I think, if we think about where did the seed come from, and the seed really came from all these trees that I'm looking at here today. And so, I think it's really built on the foundation of and the work of others across this country. So I'm excited. We're cautious. And we want to manage expectations. But we want to push. We really want to push for actionable change. So there are questions.
There are some in the chat, Karen.
Thanks. Can you
access, or do you want me to read it?
If you could read it.
Sure. And sorry if I'm trying to scroll through. So just the latest one from Janet. Congratulations, very exciting. Quick question. Approximately 25 to 30% of autistic people are non-speaking. Could you expand on any plans to ensure this population is represented?
Yeah, excellent question. And as I said in the beginning, that I think that there's a lot of work that has been done. And a lot of work that has been done for individuals who are non-speaking, but there's more to do. And that's one of the key goals that I felt that when I first sort of came into this position was, how do we better engage families and that community? And how do we ensure that the recommendations that we are making to government have impact across all perspectives, from people who are speaking to non-speaking to families who have children or adult or there's adults there who have other co-occurring conditions. So I am open to, I don't have all the answers about that right now, but I can tell you our commitment. Our commitment is to ensuring that all of those perspectives are heard and are a part of it. And I am more than open to, I know that there's a lot of new organizations. We actually hired a consultant to take a look at what are the organizations on the ground, who are the people kind of doing some of this work that we can, that are way ahead of us, that we can start engaging with. And so I have a list, but if you know other organizations that you are connected to or just remind us of, we will make sure that that is brought into the engagement circle and part of that process to create action plans.
Thanks, Karen. Another question from Nancy. So much work has gone into this. Congratulations on the movement forward. I think what might be on people's mind is, what is the key difference? What are the key differences between the Alliance and the NAN? What are the differences in a nutshell? Karen, you want to kick that one off? Yeah.
Sure, I'll try. So, you know, all of the work that the Alliance has done has brought us to this point. I think what government wanted was, I think that we are able to share, but we can't, as the National Autism Network, really aren't there to either, you know, we're there to work with government and to sort of share the information, but we can't be that super strong advocate or shame government in terms of what they're doing. We are there to sort of work closely together. The Alliance still is that advocacy role, and you'll be there, John, and to push it to make sure that the community voice is heard. So it's a fine line. And you know what? I kind of blurred out my answer now, but we've been grappling with this question too as we've kind of moved forward, even as the National Autism Network was sort of given out as an RFP. We thought, okay, what are the differences? You know, how are we going to move forward together? And so that's something that we are going to sort of figure out over time as well. But John, you may have some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, so, you know, government has decided to make it a separate entity and are funding specific positions within that entity, right? So there's the entity called the National Autism Network. There's a broader concept of how we're putting a network together to make sure it incorporates everything that we're already doing. So, you know, the Alliance will continue to play that role, and Karen shared that slide with the Venn diagram and what we're doing to support that. And what we bring as a strength of the Alliance is we need the community engagement, and NAN's, that staff and that activity and that resource is really going to help us do that in a very robust way, which we've never had been funded to do before. What we continue to do is bring the organizations together, bring the systems together, and have that lens to make sure the NAN effort as a whole can move forward in one piece, right? It's very hard to, you know, we just don't want to separate lived experience, organizations, governments. We got to come together as one. So NAN as a concept versus NAN as a funded entity are 7 positions that are going to do activities to engage lived experience. So that's how we have to spell it out in a much more clear way, but that's how we're seeing that distinction.
Yeah, but we're working together. This is all about working together. I mean, the lines are blurred for us all the time. And so it's really about that. I'm looking at, are there other questions? Because I'm wondering, there's a couple.
Yeah, one more from Lyle. You know, the cards have been dealt to us and we're playing the best hand we can to make sure things do move forward into the impact. So Lyle is asking, wondering how family will be defined. Teachers who teach students with autism spend 8 hours a day with kids and get to truly understand and work towards the growth of these individuals. Their secondary experiences will hopefully be acknowledged.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can use this as an example. So this is kind of how I always worked with engagement. You know, I as I said, I just went up to Whitehorse in the Yukon, and the first thing I did there is not go directly to families, but go to the people that provide the services. For one, I'm this untrusted organization, you know, coming up into another area. But 2 is that the people who are providing the services in that area really know sort of what's happening and know sort of where to start connecting with people. And, you know, they have, you know, if we're going to recommend something, it's got to work both for families and for autistic people, but it also has to work in the structure of whatever, if they're in education, if they're in in BC, it's children and family services. If they're in adult services, it has to work within that structure. And so we have to ensure, you're exactly right, we have to ensure that the secondary experiences are not just acknowledged, but included in terms of an action plan. Because if we do an action plan that can't actually be implemented because it doesn't fit with how service providers provide the or provide the support, the service, whatever it may be, then we're not setting us up for success, and we want to set ourselves up for success.
I'll take
Kathy.
Yep, Kathy, and then one more after this. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi there. Thanks for your time. I'm Kathy Saichi. I'm a mom to a 27-year-old autistic young man, and also an autism and employment researcher, an academic from the University of Windsor.
Right.
It's amazing that this is happening, and that the government's come knocking on the door of the Autism Alliance of Canada and asked for this network to be set up. Do you get a sense at this time, though, that from the government that there's guidelines that need to be followed on how some of this should be structured, or is there really a lot of freedom at this time to structure this whatever way the organization wants it structured, and to put some of these things in place, like some of the requirements for committees and such?
Yeah, our proposal we actually provided the proposal, and they, with the structure for committees, with, how the circle works, how this committee connects with the advisory group, connects with community, is something I think we need to co-develop. They are very open to sort of how that structure works. We're more interested with them about how do you want, what time do you need, what timing works best for you in terms of reports. It's no use providing a report when you've missed the budget cycle, right? So we want to make sure that we get those things right. But so far, and it's hard too, because there is an election on Monday, and they are in caretaker mode, so they haven't been able to kind of move forward with anything. But they really were open to our proposal, and our proposal had this structure into it. And my experience has been that they're listening to community now. And if we recommended, if something we tried wasn't really working and we were hitting some sort of wall, I think we would be able to sort of bring that forward and provide alternative solutions for how we're doing it.
Thanks, Kathy. One more from Judy. I'll close with this one. Super excited to see this move forward. Interested in the rationale for a 3-to-1 vote for self advocates versus family advocate.
Yeah, I don't know if Maddie, you want to talk about it, but I'll do it very quickly. So that typically when organizations are created, there are a much larger amount of families that join as a family member than an autistic or a person on the spectrum member, so a first person member. And so we wanted to ensure that there was a balance, and that the family vote wasn't overpowering of the first person vote. And that was the reason for that. So you also maybe, as Maddie has said, and Rebecca, I'm not revealing anything different, that you may be an autistic individual, autistic person yourself, and be a family member. You can then register as a member, as an autistic person, to get the three vote. Maddie, did I?
Yeah, that exactly covers the reasoning behind that. And again, the big overriding principle is nothing about us without us. So it's really taking a look at how to ensure that first person voice and second person voice can coexist together in a way that is balanced.
Yeah, and Mike, thank you, Mike, from the SNE Family Foundation, has just put in the definition that we had for them of family member. So it's really sort of a broad understanding and defining who family is as well. So it's in the chat. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. I just want to thank Karen for her role first of all, her role on the board, and then now stepping into this new position as we start co-creating and developing and sorting out this new change that has been put upon us, and trying to make the best of this situation. We're continuing our mandate, continuing our mission to make sure autistic people and their families are well supported in all of Canada. through an autism strategy, through S203, and there's plenty of work ahead, and we will continue to be kind of navigate this in the best way we can, with all the parameters with an election coming up, and all the things that are thrown our way. So appreciate everybody's support, and hopefully we'll see everybody very soon in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And just a reminder for board members to stay on.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Really
Bye-bye.
excited. Take
Thank you,
care.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Take
Enjoy your
care.
day.